Hello and welcome back to a unplanned, unscripted review. Now, recently I've been trying to chip away at my backlog of movies, and last night I decided to watch one that I bought on a whim a couple of months back. I read the back of it. I bought it because it had Colm Meaney in it, who is one of my favorite Irish actors, and I watched it last night on Amazon Prime on my phone up whilst I was in bed because I was too tired to come back downstairs to pull out the DVD and that. And I watched it and I fell in love with this movie. It is amazing. But before I go any further, later on I will be covering spoilers for the end of the movie. So if you don't want to see that, I will let you know when I'm about to spoil it. Also, I have a Werther's original in my mouth, so if you see me move it around throughout this review, that is why that is. So just getting that out of the way first. So, what is the plot of this movie? Well, Colm Meaney's character of Fred comes back to Ireland after many years over in the UK, and he is homeless. So his only place of residence is his car, which he's kind of kitted out in a way. So think like those van life YouTubers that buy up a van and do it into like a mobile home. So he's kind of done something similar with his car there. And at one point he actually flips one of the seats in his car around, the passenger side seat around. And is after a few days of, staying there and using some toilets to, have a shower essentially, as well as using a laundromat to wash his clothes. That another car parks up with I'd say early 20s guy named Cahill. And Cahill is paid, I forget the actor's name, but essentially he's played by the same actor who played Merlin from the BBC Merlin TV series. And Cahill is a drug addict. He's constantly getting high, and he's actually in debt to some people as from drug dealers over this. So throughout the movie, it's just basically shown the unlikely friendship of Fred and Cahill, and Cahill basically trying to get Fred to open up more and to experience life again, because it's clear that Fred has been through an awful lot and he is more closed off than normal. And not only that, but Cahill is a bit. He does open up, saying how his father blames him for his mother's death, and stuff like that. But one night, his Cahill's window gets smashed in by the drug dealers. Fred goes to pay them a little bit of what is owed, but ends up smashing their noses. And Fred also gets a love interest of this woman that he met from, swimming. She was doing aqua aerobics. And they start, not dating or anything, but they just have a few chance encounters here and there. And also, Fred is constantly denied the social welfare, or the dole as we call it here, simply because he doesn't have a place of residence. And it was actually Cahill who made him realize, maybe I can cheat this system as well. And so he goes in with this meeting, and he's talking about how travelers basically they are always on the move. They live in caravans, so they don't have a fixed address, and yet they are still entitled to the social welfare. So he uses that to his advantage in order to get um, on the social welfare. And then one of the guys who helps, you know, feed the homeless and that, gives them dinners every night. Basically asks Fred, you know, tells Fred, you know, it's going to take him a good while to get into the hostel. He's not even at the top of the list. So maybe do a an interview with the newspaper to hopefully speed that process up. And he reluctantly agrees. And he ends up having to decide to tell, you know, the person that he's been talking with and has feelings for, that he actually lives in his car. But that doesn't happen until towards the end of the movie. Now, here is where I'm going to go into spoiler territory. So if you want to watch the movie based off of what I've described of it so far, it is available on Amazon Prime. This is not sponsored, by the way. That's how I watched it. Or you can track down the DVD. I don't know if it has a Blu-ray release, though it was released in 2010, so I say it does. So I will put a time code here for you to skip to if you want to watch the rest of this review. So, spoiler warning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have been warned. So, why doesn't Fred get the chance to tell his love interest why that he lives in his car? Well, because one day when he decides to go into town, you know, he forgets something. He comes back and he notices that Cahill is shooting heroin into the veins of his feet, which is a pretty big thing because Cahill has been told, you know, he's not going to get into any hostels whilst he's still a drug addict, which throughout the entire movie he is. You know, we often see him do marijuana and that, but he swears that he's never done heroin, and he even shows Fred, you know, his wrists and that. But it turns out he's been actually doing it in his feet. Fred catches him. They have a bit of an argument. He continues off on his walk, and whilst Fred is gone, the drug dealers come back and they trash his car and essentially nearly beat Carl within an inch of his life, obviously for own money. So he then manages to dust himself off and goes walking over to where his dad lives. He breaks in, they have a bit of a chat, and his dad basically gives him the cold shoulder because at this point he owes €600 to the drug dealers. And so then he steals a bit of money. He finds a group of kids, I'd say teenagers, and he's completely out of it. But they give him some heroin. They steal his shoes, and he takes one last hit, actually into his arms, and he dies. Yeah, that is the unfortunate end of Cahill. He does not get to escape homelessness, and he ODs. I think that's what happens. He either ODs or because, you know, he's been through a lot. You know, being beaten up and that shot of heroin was enough to kill him, and he dies. And all whilst Fred, who has come back at this point, notices the car. He does the interview. There's some graffiti sprawled all over his car, and he goes out searching for him, forgetting that he has already asked his love interest to meet him so he can explain everything. That doesn't happen. She obviously comes there at the time and notices his watch repair kit or his clock repair kit, because early on in the movie it's shown that he can repair watches and clocks and that. And uh, so we cut to a little bit later where Fred goes to visit Cathal, obviously in the casket, and then afterwards he meets up with his love interest. She decides to return to Helsinki, so that relationship doesn't happen, and then he goes to visit his Carl's father. Explains, that he's a really good friend, that he showed him how to live again, essentially, and gives back his father's watch because that's something that Carl took when he was kicked out, and Fred had obviously fixed and then fixed again, and then left, and then he shows that Carl has his own place now. So, now that I've explained the spoilery bits, what did I think of this movie? It is beautiful. It is beautifully shot. There are a good bit of lens flares in the beginning of this movie that I noticed. But other than that, it is beautifully shot. It is everything is just the whole visual aspect of it. There are a lot of beautiful shots in this movie. The acting was phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. And I'm glad that I finally got around to watch this because I honestly think Parked is a hidden gem. Not only if you're a Colin Meaney fan, but if you love watching Irish movies, because then, like I said, the entire movie is based in Ireland and around 2009, 2010, from my rough estimate, because since the movie came out in 2010. And yeah, I would highly recommend, if you can watch it on Amazon Prime, to do so. It's only an hour and a half long. It is very depressing. I'm not gonna lie, it can get very depressing at times, but it's still it's a really nice film. It's one of those, like I said, it's a movie where with unlikely friendships between two people, and it done really really well. And like I said, the acting is phenomenal. The cinematography is excellent, and that is why on my Letterboxd account I gave this a 5 star, because it honestly does deserve it. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it at all, and that's why I highly recommend that you watch it. And yeah, so thank you all for watching this surprised unscripted review. I just, after watching that film, I just could not do an unscripted review, and so easily was just to get rid of a YouTube short to have this up. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you on Friday for another video that I've forgotten what's coming out on Friday. So I'll see you on Friday.